Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Double Coverage, the official NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. My name is John J. II. I'm here with Musa Basal. Musa, how are we doing today, man?
I'm pretty good. Got a lot of snow recently. Finally got that snowstorm, but really excited for this podcast today to talk about some exciting things.
Yeah, me too. A lot's happened in the last 7 days, and there's a lot to talk about. The amount of teams has shrunk to 4. There only remains 4 teams left, and after this weekend, we will know our Super Bowl matchup for 2023, and we're excited. We're excited. I think the teams that are there deserve to be there. I guess, how would you analyze the teams, the 4 teams that we have right now, as far as deserving to be in the place they're in?
I mean, all of these teams have been very dominant the last stretch of the year. They all were predicted to go far in the playoffs, and they have. So I don't think it's a fluke. None of them are really like upsets. I think we all expected these teams to be here, and well, congrats to them to actually pulling through and actually making it.
Yeah, exactly. And they worked hard to get here. There's teams that have worked hard and maybe aren't here, but this is how the cookie crumbles. This is how the cards fall, and we have 4 teams left. That's just the reality of the situation, and we have to deal with what we have. And I think we have a good core of teams here to give us a great Super Bowl. So we'll get into that later. We'll talk about predictions for the conference championships coming up this weekend. But first, we got to talk about NFL honors. Let's go through the finalists. Let's talk about them. We're only going to go through a couple of the sections today. We'll actually break down 5 of the sections. We'll do the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, AP Offensive Player of the Year, AP Defensive Player of the Year, and the MVP, the coveted MVP award that is so much sought after. And even real quick, before we get into those, there was a debate going on between Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers said on the record that he thinks that the MVP award is synonymous with a Super Bowl victory, if not a greater honor. How would you address that? Because Rob Gronkowski said, I don't think that they're even close. I think winning a Super Bowl as a team is equivalent to 5 MVP awards. So there was some disagreement there. I want to hear your take. What do you think about the status of either an MVP award for an individual performance or a Super Bowl ring for a team performance?
I mean, it speaks to what kind of person you are. Gronk's a team player. He wants his team to win. He wants everyone to win. A Super Bowl, everyone wins. Your whole team wins. An MVP, you're one person. If all you care about is yourself or your own stats, then an MVP is going to be more valuable. If you care about winning and you care about being a good player and a good team and being part of a great team, then a Super Bowl is more important. And I think for a lot of players, a Super Bowl is more important. It's like the ultimate goal, ultimate dream.
It should be the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal. Anyway, I mean, I don't know. I have a tough time seeing the MVP. No, now I don't want to discount the status of winning an MVP award. It deserves a lot of praise, a lot of, rounds of applause, whatever you want to call it. It deserves that. But I think winning a Super Bowl, I mean, far and beyond, that's the biggest, achievement you can get. I mean, you're the champions of the world, and why not celebrate that with your team compared to winning an MVP award? It's just a difference of opinions there,
And I
and
think
I don't know.
because
I think it's clear cut, but
yeah,
obviously it's not.
I think a Super Bowl takes a lot more to win a Super Bowl because you need your whole team. You need a whole team to win a Super Bowl. You can't have a Super Bowl win off of one person. The MVP, if you have one MVP on your team, let's say it's the quarterback, he can't win you that Super Bowl if you don't have the players around him to win you that Super Bowl. So that's how I look at it. Like, it's a whole team thing. It's more impressive when you win a Super Bowl versus just having really good stats and playing really good at yourself.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get into it real quick. Let's talk about the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. Talk to me about the finalists and then tell me who you think is deserving of this award. Your unbiased opinion, Musa. Let's hear it.
Okay, I mean, obviously, it's a little hard to be unbiased here. I mean, but so we have Sauce Gardner, Jets cornerback, Tarkon Woolen, Seahawks defensive back, and then we have Aiden Hutchinson defensive line. I haven't watched too much of like the corners for the Jets or the Seahawks because, quite frankly, I don't follow those teams so well, so I don't know too much about them. But then there's Aiden Hutchinson, and you hear the talks of Aiden Hutchinson. You hear this man is a generational talent. You see him making wild plays. Now, yes, I'm going to be in front of more of Aiden Hutchinson's plays being a Lions fan, owning his jersey and being. I mean, I love Hutchinson, Michigan man. I'm a Wolverines fan, so I followed him closely this year, and he's dominated players. He's been that player that you need on your team. He has changed this defense. He's changed the culture. He's part of that culture that Detroit's building. So I think for me, and what I also heard from other people talking about how good this player is, confirming it, people who aren't Lions fans, people who are NFL experts talking about this guy being a generational talent and being this good of a player, especially this early on in his career, it's pretty clear to me that he's going to win it. And that's my unbiased opinion on it. I think his stats speak for themselves. His play speaks for itself. And everyone talking about how good he is speaks for him.
Sounds unbiased to me. I mean, looking at that background you got right there, I mean, very impressive right there with that background, Jesus. But I mean, I think looking at it completely unbiased too, you almost have to hand this award to Aiden Hutchinson. And am I biased? I don't think so, because I've said it publicly. I've said it a million times. I am not a Lions fan. Do I follow the Lions? Do I watch them consistently? And do I want them to win? Yes, of course I do. But I look at other intangibles than that, and that's what the AP is going to be looking at too when these awards are handed out. There's going to be a certain process that a lot of it is explained to the masses, but a lot of those layers are not. Obviously, they're going to be taking stats into account, but it's not going to be purely based on stats. Similar to the Heisman Trophy in college, it's a similar system as far as how those awards are handed out. So let's just go over the finalists real quick for the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Sauce Gardner, Jets cornerback, Aiden Hutchinson, Lions D-end, and Tariq Woolen, the Seahawks cornerback. So I guess it really boils down to, do you want a corner or do you want a D-end? I think
And
Aiden Hutchinson stands alone in the defensive end category, obviously looking at those three finalists. But, I mean,
and
how
I
do you
mean
differentiate? Go
the
ahead.
records. I mean, there's talks that he could have won the regular the regular defensive player of the year. That's how good he's been, not just rookies. I mean, he broke the NFL sack record through 6 career games. It's, I mean, he's breaking records left and right playing on his team. It's just been so impressive to watch. So, like, for me, I'm like, how do you not give it to someone who's breaking records and destroying teams? Like, he's been impossible to stop.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I'm sure all these gentlemen, and they have. Sauce Gardner's been putting up good numbers of the Jets on the defense there. Tariq Woolen's been doing good for the Seahawks defensive core and the secondary. But Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, you're basically comparing apples to oranges in a certain regard. Not 100%, not purely, but you're looking at two different facets of the defense, two different layers to the defense
It's
in the cornerback position compared to the defensive end.
it's like a
But
QB versus a offensive lineman, if you say not obviously not as drastic of a difference there, but like you're comparing two very different positions. You're not comparing a defensive end to a defensive tackle or a different defensive end. You're comparing him to a cornerback, which is a very different job. So
that's true. That will be taken into account. Let's look at the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. So our contestants are Brock Purdy, 49ers QB, still in it. They got past the Cowboys last weekend. We'll talk about that, have a little fun with that in a little bit. Then Kenneth Walker III, previous Michigan State running back, brought him some great wins. It was a sad day when he said he was going to get drafted, but we knew that he was NFL caliber. He was ready for the league. And then you got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the Jets. Just off quick glance here, who do you like for the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year?
it's a hard one because like Brock Purdy has been dominant, but he hasn't been playing the whole year. He doesn't have as many games under him. Kenneth Walker dominant, Garrett Wilson very dominant. Honestly, they the fact that Brock Purdy's a QB makes me want to say it's going to be him, but I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker here.
Okay, I like the pick. I got to go, and this is going to surprise you. I'm going to go with Brock Purdy just because he's won so many games for the games that he was called up to play. He is Mr. Irrelevant, and that's kind of, what he is. That's who he is called, but he's starting to become Mr. Relevant in a lot of ways, and he's starting to be more Mr. Relevant than Mr. Irrelevant. He's bringing a lot of poise to this 49ers offense. He's, gaining the likeness of, players like George Kittle, and he's just a rising star. You see a lot of potential in him, and you hope that when you look at a quarterback or a player like Brock Purdy, that you're not going to see a player that has short-lived potential. You want to see that long-lived potential where it has longevity into future seasons. And it's by circumstance that he's playing right now, but I
Yeah,
think he's deserving of the job.
I think that does help in the fact that he's still playing. I mean, we both I think ruled out Garrett Wilson right away. Historically speaking, wide receivers generally don't win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's not as common. I mean, Jamar Chase obviously that was a huge year for him. Then going back after that, it was Odell Beckham Jr. And I mean, that's Odell. So it's not super common. Running backs seem to win it a lot. QBs win it a lot. So I think it's between Brock Purdy and Kenneth Walker here. And then
Definitely, it will. It
just
will be.
give comparisons for especially for like the defense. It's always defensive line or linebackers winning the award. You have a few center backs in there, but it's very rare. It's majority linebackers and defensive line. So you have to account for history and what history says.
That's true. It has to come into account because that's how the AP will, guide. That's the process that their process of voting that will be guided by what was true and what has been true in previous years. So that's a good thing to go off of. I'm going to pick Brock Purdy. I like Mr. Relevant. I like what he's been doing. I like what he's showing us. And I think that they continue to play hard and, they're going to, fight like hell. And they're going to give the Eagles a hell of a contest this weekend. So I mean, that's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a better contest for the Eagles than were the Giants. But we'll talk about that here shortly. Let's go into the AP Offensive Player of the Year. Our contestants: Tyreek Hill, Dolphins wide receiver; Jalen Hurts, Eagles quarterback; Justin Jefferson, Vikings wide receiver; or Patty Mahomes, Chiefs quarterback. So you got some good players in there. Who do you got off first glance?
Whew. It's a tricky one. I mean, Patty Mahomes is in there, but Patty Mahomes is also in line for MVP. Do you give Mahomes MVP and Offensive Player of the Year? Do they do that? Does that come into account there?
I'm not sure.
Because I don't know either. I'm sure you can win both, but I think it's pretty rare.
Yeah, your odds of winning both. I mean, it's the same board of people that is going to be choosing each award. So, I mean,
I
you got
think
to ask yourself, was he far and beyond better
if you,
in not only an offensive capacity, but an overall capacity? I
yeah, I
mean,
think
that's a
like
question you got to ask.
you're going to ask, was he really that much better than Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, and Tyreek Hill if he's winning the MVP? Like, I mean, MVP is the most valuable one. Like, you want to win the MVP. If you win the MVP, you're probably the best offensive player already of your team, anyways, of the year. So,
Right.
in that sense, I'm gonna rule Patrick Mahomes out just because I think my pre-prediction is he's gonna win MVP. They also have Justin Jefferson on winning the MVP as well. So that makes me want to go between Justin Jefferson and Patrick Mahomes on Offensive Player of the Year. And I'm going to give Justin Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year, and then I'm going to give Mahomes MVP.
Okay. And you got Jalen Hurts also nominated for both Offensive Player of the Year and MVP.
Oh,
So, I mean, you got three people there, a little bit of overlap.
I
So you have
did
potential
just
for the AP to make a decision there. I don't think anybody wins both
no.
personally. And I don't
I
think Jalen Hurts even wins one of those. If
yeah, no.
that's a surprise, I hope it's not. But
I
I
mean,
don't know. I
he's
just don't
good.
see it.
He's good, but his team, I think, is a huge factor. I think you have to credit his team for a lot of his success.
Yeah, you do. You got to look further beyond just the individual player. Does he? I mean, I think if he wins anything, he wins Offensive Player of the Year. Now, that doesn't mean that any of these other contestants couldn't win it. I think that if Jalen Hurts wins an award, it will be the AP Offensive Player of the Year, not the MVP. For obvious reasons, there's been some holes. I don't think he has the longevity. He doesn't have the experience as some of these other players do. I'm just going to go out on a limb. I think Patty Mahomes wins the AP Most Valuable Player. The MVP award goes to Patty Mahomes, in my opinion, and
You're there.
Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, just give me Jalen Hurts. I think that they like their quarterbacks, and the AP definitely does. They are the leaders of the team,
Ooh.
and they expect them to do great things.
I didn't expect that one coming after you said I don't think he wins any of them.
It was an
It's just
audible. I had to throw an audible in there
it's a
just
he's a
because
he's a
surprises are good.
QB. That's the thing. It's like QBs are loved in all these awards, Heisman awards. So like, I'm not shocked if he wins it, just for the fact that he is a quarterback and his team has been dominant. Like I think Justin Jefferson is most deserving.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, just as a little bit of a recap. If not Jalen Hurts, you got to give it to Justin Jefferson. I don't think Patty Mahomes or Tyreek Hill wins that. I think Patty Mahomes. I think you put Tyreek Hill in fourth. I don't think that he's really done enough this year to leave the Chiefs, and now he's playing for the Dolphins. I don't think he had as much impact, and you
Now,
have all the injuries going there with Tua. Then you got Teddy Bridgewater coming in and stinking up the field. So it's
you
I just don't see him winning it, and that's due to his quarterbacks, not
yeah,
himself
he's
necessarily.
super talented. I mean, if he's on the Chiefs, he has probably a solid chance of winning this.
Definitely.
Now, I have to say this out here. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't win MVP, he wins Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay. All right. That's kind of, I think you almost have to pencil Patrick Mahomes in for at least one of these awards. And considering the fact that they're still in the running, now obviously you got Joe Burrow still in there too. You got Josh Allen. sitting there at the top. I don't know if these are in sequential order, or if the numbering of these names of
Don't
how they're
think so.
presented means anything. I don't think it does. But I think that Joe Burrow is going to be a serious candidate for MVP, as is Jalen Hurts, as in Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, I don't think he wins MVP, but I think Patty Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts, especially considering they're all three still in it, that's going to have a factor. But I have to say this: just because the team or the player is still in the running for the Super Bowl, that's not a be-all, end-all for them to automatically be put ahead of
Now,
another player.
when do they vote on this?
So
Is it after the Super Bowl?
So the honors ceremony will be on February 9th, 2023. And that's basically when they will be told. But they're considering everything right now as time progresses. So
Because like
before the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
let's say Joe Burrow goes out there and destroys Mahomes, there may be and he really puts on an impressive showing. There's a case for Joe Burrow to take it. Now, I think these games mean a lot less. It's just one extra game they can add to pad their stats and really prove why they should be it. But if it's a very close voting system right now, they're very split. Whoever really wins this game and dominates could edge the other person out. But I don't think it's really going to be the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of the considerations made by the AP will be determined on the player. If anything's determined on the stats, majority of that will be determined on their regular season stats. And a very small percentage, I would say 10% or less, will be considered or brought into account for what they do in the postseason.
Yeah.
So there's still going to be some that will be considered for this award or whatever award we're talking about based on their postseason play, but the majority of that will be determined by their regular season play. So I think that has to be determined, or
I think
has to be
postseason
noted.
comes in when they can't make a decision. They're very split. I think that's when they look at postseason.
Okay, let's look at the defensive player of the year. Nick Bosa, 49ers defensive end, Chris Jones, Chiefs D tackle, or Micah Parsons, Cowboys linebacker. I mean, who do you got here?
Give me Nick Bosa. I mean, 49ers are being dominant. I mean, it could go to anyone, really, honestly. It really could. I'm just going to go on a limb and just say Nick Bosa. He's a very good player. He's very dominant, and I think he deserves it.
Okay, I'll go out on a limb, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'll take Micah Parsons. He became a household name in the NFL as far as linebackers are concerned. And I'm not a Cowboys fan by any means, by any stretch of the word, but he is a threat as a player. No teams considered, nothing like that. So I'm going to bring Micah Parsons in and pick him as my defensive player of the year. So we'll mark it down, we'll check it in, and we'll see what happens. Simple as that. Good deal. Let's move on. Let's talk about.
Wait, we've got one topic here.
What do you got? Well, I feel like we already went over MVP. We can go over it again. Let's just go over the contestants real quick.
Whoa. We need to talk. I have some bones to pick with the NFL here for the coach of the year, the nominees.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Go. Of course. My fault. Let's hear it.
Listen, you're going to put Brian Dabble, the Giants coach, in there. You're going to put Doug Peterson, the Jaguars coach, in there. But you're not going to put Dan Campbell in there. Let's just take, for example, the Jags and the Lions. They both had really crappy records last year. They both turned it around to 9-8. Yes, the Jags made the playoffs, but they are in a trash division. Just a few weeks ago, the Jags and the Lions played, and we put 40-14 on the Jags. Yet they have the head coach of the Jags, Doug Peterson, in there over Dan Campbell. And then Brian for the Giants. Yes, he's in the playoffs, but also the Lions destroyed the Giants. He turned around this team in basically 1 year. I guess the only thing I could see is the Jags. Doug Peterson did it in 1 year, where this is the second year for Dan Campbell, but still, same record. Lions destroyed Jags. Yes, the Jags are in the playoffs, but that's because of their division. Dan Campbell is working with a lot less in terms of what the Jags had compared to him, and what division he had to play in, and what he had to do to get to 9-8. And it's a far more impressive than what the Jags had to do. So that's I don't get this one. I really don't.
Yeah, the only thing I can consider here, I mean, looking across the board, the coaches of the year, Brian Dable, the Giants, Sean McDermott, the Bills, Doug Peterson, the Jags, Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, and Nick Sirianni for the Eagles. They all made it to the playoffs. The Lions didn't. I mean, is that? I mean, that's what I'm
Yes,
seeing here. That
I
had to
get
be a be all end all for the determination of these
I
concessions.
get that, but like you got to look at the stats. You got to look at who they played. You got to look at the records. You got to look at them playing each other. I think in this situation, I think you got to look at the culture and what they've changed. Like
Yeah, I don't disagree.
you put the Lions in the Jags division. They're 10-8? No, 10-7 at least. They would destroy that division if they had the same opponents. That's I guess it's all speculation at the end of the day. Like you got to speculate, but like they have the same exact record. So if they were in different divisions, then at that point, yes, they would have made the playoffs. So I think that's probably an argument you can make. So
Yep.
it
This
is
is
what
all
it
I'm going to
is.
say. This is all I'm going to say. This is the be all end all of this specific category. What is your job? What's your number one job as a coach in the NFL?
To win.
To win, but you want to make the playoffs. You got to make the playoffs if you're the coach. First and foremost, you got to win. Okay. And Dan Campbell, if they had a comeback coach of the year, I think Dan Campbell stands alone in that category. Nope, trust me, Musa. Nobody likes Dan Campbell or loves Dan Campbell more than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Lions fan. I love him as a coach, just like Jim Harbaugh is my favorite coach in college football. There's a lot to consider here, but your number one goal as a coach in the NFL is to get your team to the playoffs. Regardless of what you do after that, you guys made it, and people forget what happens after that.
Here's my thing with it. If they only had 3 coaches nominated, don't put Dan Campbell in there because he didn't make the playoffs. You have 5 coaches nominated. Like that's where I'm like give the man some credit there. Like I know he didn't make the playoffs. I know I'm biased, but like he's done so much for this team. I mean, he himself says he doesn't deserve to be there. There's a lot of good coaches when he was on the Manning cast, but like, still, like,
I know
I just
it
feel
hurts.
it's a little disrespectful in my opinion. But
I hear you.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I mean, I just think like that was a mistake they made on their end. But next year, I think no doubt he will be up there.
Definitely. I think he will too. Real quick, just because we didn't do it, we'll talk about the AP MVP contestants. We talked about it a little bit, but the contestants, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes. Just real quick for a recap, who do you got winning the MVP?
I mean, I think we've made that obvious. It's between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I'm giving it to Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. I'll ride Joe Burrow just because I think that Patty Mahomes wins the offensive. But like I said, if he doesn't win, there's a lot of different scenarios here. And there's no scenarios where I see any player winning both the offensive and the MVP. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it could happen. I guess I put the percentage at 3%. 3% chance.
Was Patrick Mahomes that dominant over every single other player this year to be winning both?
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't. There's no way. There's no way
he
that he gets that.
I'm with you here. If he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, obviously not a rookie. Joe Burrow wins MVP. If Patrick Mahomes wins MVP, I'm surprised Joe Burrow isn't on Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, me too. So there's a lot of scenarios that I have where Patrick Mahomes is winning one of these two awards. There's a lesser amount of scenarios where I have Joe Burrow winning the MVP, which I think is very possible. And I would say there's the same amount of possibilities where I have Jalen Hurts winning 0 of the awards presented where he's qualified for. So we're just gonna have to see and wait and see what happens. We'll see what happens when the vote comes out on the NFL honors ceremony happening on February 9th, 2023. And that will be live on NBC, Peacock, and the NFL Network. So we'll be focused on that, and we'll be sure to revert back to this show as soon as those results are released. Let's move on. Let's talk about the games this past weekend real quick. Let's do a rapid fire round of what we saw this past weekend. So let's just start with the Bills and the Bengals. The Bills offense did not show up. They didn't arrive. They didn't take the field. They didn't play Bills football. And the Bengals, they just played dominant football. And I guess that makes me wish I would have seen the regular season contest in Cincy, with the Bills and the Bengals. We never got to see that game, obviously, for the Damar Hamlin situation, which we're going to talk about even in more detail here in a second. But what happened to the Bills to cause them to not show up in this game?
I don't know how much has to do with the Bills, but I think it's just credit to the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals showed up. The Bengals stopped them. I mean, the Bengals were playing like with a vengeance. They wanted that Super Bowl last year, and they're coming for it. They see it. This is the opportunity. If they make the Super Bowl this year, they win the Super Bowl. If the Chiefs make the Super Bowl this year, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. That's how this year is. Whoever wins between the Chiefs and the Bengals are winning the Super Bowl. That's how dominant these two teams are. Yes, the Eagles are good. Yes, the 49ers are good. They're not as good as these two teams. I think that's been clear throughout this whole situation. I think a lot of people will agree with this one. It's between the Chiefs and the Bengals for the Super Bowl win. Whoever wins these two games are winning the Super Bowl.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Musa. I think you're 100% on point with this one. The AFC just has more dominance. The AFC shows more dominance week after week across the board. We've seen it. Other than the Eagles being an outlier, the 49ers, they're a good team. Not saying these two teams are. If you're taking and splitting apart the NFC, you're looking at the two best teams in the NFC. In the NFC Championship, I don't think you could have picked a better NFC Championship game, personally.
I mean,
the
I'm
AFC,
biased, but
whoever wins the AFC, I think the AFC wins the Super Bowl.
And I think a lot of people, talking to players that I'm friends with, they're in agreement. The AFC is so much more dominant. I think you can go to almost any NFL insider, any huge player, any coach, and they'll tell you how dominant this AFC is, and they're in agreement. Go back and watch the Manning cast. Deion Sanders is favoring the AFC. Dan Campbell favors the AFC. All these coaches and players and people favor the AFC just because of how good they are.
Yeah, they're great. And they're going to continue to be great because they have a lot of athletes flocking to the AFC. And it seems like, you want to say that, the AFC, the NFC, they're not separate, but they are. They play with a different mentality. And maybe it's not across the board, but certain teams in the AFC will play with a certain amount of dominance compared to the NFC. And people will say that's a far-fetched statement. And I'll say, no, it's not. So
it isn't.
It's simple as that. We see it every single week. Go ahead.
It's just the way it is right now. Let's be honest. It's not because, oh my God, it's because of the AFC. It's just the players they have, the teams they have, the coaches they have at this point in time, at this point in history, are just far more dominant. It's just as far as simple as that. It isn't because, they're labeled the AFC. Label these teams the NFC and then label the other team the AFC. The NFC is more dominant. It has nothing to do with the division. It just has to do with the teams that are in it and playing against better teams. I think that's another big one. The AFC just has a lot more competition. And it's a lot more difficult. So they play better teams, which makes them even better. Because, playing up against better teams, the better you're going to have to be to beat them.
100%. Well said. Let's talk about the Damar Hamlin situation where he was at the game and at the Bengals-Bills game, and he was covered up, masked up, maybe not with the Fauci mask, but he was wearing a mask of some sort where he was concealing his face. He was hiding from the cameras. Do you think that there's something going on here? Because obviously this has been taking the NFL world by storm. People think that this is an imposter. People are standing alone. Damar Hamlin even released a tweet of a picture of him next to a mural of himself, still masked up, still concealed, with quote unquote clone and a ninja emoji. What do you have to say about this entire deal? Do you think it's a hoax or do you think it's real?
I guess there's some credit to why people are speculative. He had a lot of security following him around. He was masked up. He didn't really you can't tell that was Damar Hamlin from what we're looking at.
Right.
He was covered up. He did just suffer a major accident. He was basically dead for 9 minutes. I don't think it's unreasonable to think why would this guy be walking around and after just going through that. He's lucky to be alive. I hear some stories like, oh, he's dead already. The NFL can't admit it. They're going to admit it after the Super Bowl because they don't want to lose stuff. But I think that's going way too far. Now, I could see that maybe this guy is a clone. DeMar Hamlin's alive and well, but he just doesn't have the energy to be at the game. So they wanted a hype man to kind of bring up the energy, and they could have been doing that. I can see that, but then I don't know the fact that he's like trolling people at the same time. I think a lot of times in situations when they start trolling people, it turns out just to be like pretty stupid and like yeah, they're just over dramatic about it. And maybe he wanted that to be that way, just kind of bringing drama, making people speculate, and kind of bringing it in. I don't know. I think it's just kind of stupid what's going on. If I'm being honest with you, I think people are blowing things way too far to promote promotion and I mean, they're not gonna lie about a man being dead and actually have him alive, because
I don't
it's just
know
gonna
though.
look.
I mean, it kind of comes down to who can you trust. I'm not
Yes,
going to say it's one way or the other. I'm not
I
going to,
just I
pick a side of the controversy here, but I think it's strange. I think it's strange. There is something being covered up, and
yeah,
no
the
matter
fact that
what, the
he
truth
hit
will
his
come out.
face.
The truth will come out. That's all I'm
Yeah,
going to
the
say.
fact that he hit his face, he wasn't like it wasn't. Oh, it wasn't me. Makes me think maybe it's like a club, not a club, but someone pretending to be him just to bring the morale up. Because I mean, I think they really did need that morale booster, especially considering this is like the team that they were facing when the tragedy happened, and I think they wanted the morale boost there for the fans and everyone. I think even including for everyone, every player in that sense. But like the whole thing's where he is, they claiming he's people are claiming he's dead. I get where it comes from. I mean, 9 minutes of CPR. I mean, that is that is a lot. I mean,
There's a
it's
lot of far-fetched thoughts here. I think that it's all going to come out. The truth will come out, whether it's
yeah.
someone
I
that
mean,
leaks it, someone that knows something more than we know right now will come forward. The truth will always find its way, and
yeah.
that's all we can really say right now. We can
I mean,
speculate and sit here and talk all we want about
you
it.
can't
But,
have someone hidden forever. He's gonna
right.
eventually have to show his face, or if he never shows his face, then it'll be pretty obvious that this man is no longer with us. But
Right.
until then, there's no point. I mean, like we could speculate all we want, but we'll never really know until the news comes out.
Exactly. Real quick, we got to get it out. We got to talk about the Cowboys. Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy beats the Dallas Cowboys, takes down Dak Prescott. Couldn't be more happy. How do you feel about this?
Oh, it was a gift. It was a blessing. I was so happy. I was I was I was at home at the time. I was buying some stuff. I was in the middle of the store partying when 49ers won. People probably thought I was crazy.
Right.
It was, and they're like, my friend, the friend was like, "You really hate Dallas." I'm like, "Mm-hmm, I really do. You're not wrong. I hate this team. I don't know. There's something about this team that they make part of it. I guess is the fans. Part of it is the owner. Part of it is just them. Oh, they're so good. We're the America's team. This that. I think they want everything handed to them. Like they just seem so entitled and just they bother me in a way that no other team does. Besides the Packers.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to go light on the Cowboys tonight. They lost. They have enough to deal with. Their fans were filmed breaking TVs, and I got to kind of go easy on them just because I have close family and friends that are fans of Dallas. So out of my consideration for them, I'm going to go easy on them. But I think I was hard enough on them last week, and with them losing, it would just be piling on. So with that, Jacksonville, they barely lose to the Chiefs. It's hard to beat Mahomes in the postseason, 27-20, the final there. And I mean, Eagles, Giants wasn't even a contest, and the Bengals smoked the Bills. That is the recap for last week. Now we got to focus on the conference championship. So the NFC, we talked about this briefly already. The NFC, San Fran and the Eagles. Let's start with that one, and then we'll finish up with the Bengals Chiefs. What do we think about San Fran and the Eagles? Just at first glance, who wins that game?
I mean, something's telling me, give me the 49ers. Give me the 49ers. I mean, I've always been a little skeptical of this Eagles team. I mean, they had a big win, but I mean, that was the Giants. I mean, the Giants are shouldn't have been there. Let's be honest. Giants were not.
Right.
They're not ready for the playoffs. So I'm just like, give me the give me the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers have been looking good. I mean, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey. They have a lot of nominees on this list here. So it's something's telling me 49ers are taking this one. It's just a feeling that I can't go against.
Yeah, I like Brock Purdy. I like the 49ers. Give me the 49ers. I like them to win. I like them to make it to the Super Bowl just because in my decision would change if Jimmy G was behind the center.
Yes.
I don't think the 49ers would win this game if Jimmy G's in. Brock Purdy
I don't
brings a
think-
different energy to
I
the
don't think
49ers.
49ers are here right now if Jimmy G is in.
Right. So give me the 49ers. Let's move on to the AFC. Just real quick glance. We're going to do recaps of these next week. Who do you got in the AFC Championship? Bengals or the Chiefs?
I mean, if you follow my Twitter, you know I've before this I was choosing the Chiefs. Mahomes' injury, Bengals being so freaking dominant. I have to give the Bengals. And I want the Bengals to win their Super Bowl. I mean, last year it was a tough choice for me because my friend plays for the Bengals. My former coach plays for the Bengals. I'm like, how do I choose between Stafford and the Bengals? But I chose Stafford. I'm like, Stafford needs his ring. The Bengals can get my coach, and the Bengals can get it next year. And here they are on the cusp of getting it this year. So give me the Bengals.
All right. Yeah, I like the Bengals too. Chiefs have been there. They have the experience. This is going to be a game of fireworks. Based on what the Bengals did to the Bills, I don't think anyone can beat them. I think they're back for unfinished business. They're ready to dominate, and their eyes are on that Lombardi trophy. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, this whole year I've been talking about, I'm like, people are sleeping on the Bengals this year. They started off a little bit slow, coming off that Super Bowl slump, but they got right back into it, and no one was really talking about it besides me. I'm like, people need to keep an eye on this team, and here they are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they are. So we'll be looking forward to these games this weekend, both on Sunday. Brings back the NFL Sunday slate. No more Saturday games, unfortunately. I know everyone's disappointed about that. Not me. I like NFL games on Sundays. I think they should all be on Sundays. I think they should start them at like 9 a.m. and then just play all the way until 8 p.m. That's where you have, games all the way, 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 1 o'clock, 4:25, and then 8 o'clock. You could have done that last weekend.
I do like my Thursday night games too, though, because it gives me a little bit of football between the week.
Yeah, I do. I do miss that.
I mean, I am a busy person on Sundays. I am working on Sundays, so it's a little hard for me to watch games on Sunday. But Saturdays are the same way. Like Saturdays are for college football. I keep it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Good deal. All right, that brings us to the end of the show. Real quick before we get into, the final games, the final two teams before the Super Bowl Sunday, the Super Bowl Sunday. What do you have to say to the people out there, Musa, just going into the games this weekend?
I mean, I'm just excited for some good football. Whatever happens. Let's enjoy it. Let's congratulate the teams, and let's not break TVs. Let's not destroy property.
Let's be professional.
Your own property. If it's your own stuff, do whatever you want. Let's be professional.
So I have mixed emotions on that. So yes, I agree. I don't, have we all? We're both gamers, Musa. I think we can say that confidently. Have we felt like breaking our monitors or breaking, controllers before? Of course, but we don't do it. Have I broken drivers before on the golf course? Of course I have. Do I regret it immediately? Yes, I do. Have I burned couches in East Lansing after a big win? Yes, I have. But usually they're not mine. They're my neighbors. So there's different caveats to this. But the bottom line is take care of your property.
If it's your property, do whatever you want. I mean, it's yours. Just as long as you're not harming someone else's stuff. I mean, I've never gotten close to breaking a monitor. I have slammed my desk before out of frustration. But that's about it.
All right. Respect where respect is deserved. Respect is earned, not given. Remember that going into this weekend.
Or are you a state guy? I thought you were state.
I'm a state guy. What do you mean?
Respect is earned. I mean, that's a pretty famous Michigan thing.
Actually, I made that up. I made that up off the cuff there, Musa. Come on, Moose. I mean, unless I see that on a plaque somewhere in the Chrysler Center or in the Big House, then
I mean, they
that's
have
a
they
saying
have all
anyone
the
can make up.
shirts. I have the shirt
Okay, I need
somewhere.
to see that that's a Michigan only statement. If it's
I don't know.
trademarked,
Okay,
like
I
row the
don't know if
boat.
it's a Michigan only thing. I just know that's where I've originally seen it. That's where
Okay.
I think I think it's originated from Michigan. Do not quote me on that.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna quote you on it until we figure it out. So
I'll
hopefully you're
have that
right.
ready for next week.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out our link tree. There's going to be a lot more content popping up on our TikTok and our IG Reels content sphere. So make sure to look out for that. Check out everything on our link tree. We'll be getting an update, a facelift here in the next couple days. So look forward to that. We'll have all the socials for all the GSN members on it, as well as all notable links. Make sure to check out our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all IG posts, articles, and updates. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the Twitter sphere, where both Musa and I are very active. So make sure to call us out, get a hold of us, do what you got to do. I mean, if you disagree with something that we're talking about here on the show, we want to address it to you
Tweet at us.
directly. And we will. We're happy to do that. So we're looking
I'm
forward to
happy
that.
to see your side of it. I'm happy to show you my side of it, all respectfully. Even if you might disagree, I'm pretty active on Twitter, so I am happy to disagree with it. I mean, I've gotten arguments with Lions fans talking about drafting a QB, and I'm like, how? So like, I'm no matter what it is, I am able to defend my side. I'm gonna show you my side. I'll listen to your side. I want to see both points of view. I want to see what you're thinking here. What you can see what I'm thinking, hopefully, and we can. At the end of it, if we still disagree, or you can agree to disagree, that's okay.
Perfect. If it gets ugly, it gets ugly. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. We want those interactions. We want those controversies to happen. And if they get ugly, they get ugly. That's the risk you got to take. If you're jumping into the ring with us, you got to be ready to get clawed up and leave with some bruises. So that's all we got to say. And
you see it between us two.
Go ahead.
We've seen it you've seen it with the Michigan State, with all three of us, with Taven as well, are talking about Michigan and butt heading each other there and things like that. So we can handle it.
We can handle it. We got thick skin. We have to, being in the industry we're in. And yeah, we love it. We love the controversy. We love the conversations. Bad things happen when we stop talking about this type of stuff. So we got to keep talking about it, especially sports related happenings. It's getting hot here in the NFL sphere. So we're looking forward to these final games, and we're going to miss them when they're gone. And yeah, got to leave it at that. Cool. All right, guys. Well, until next time, I'm John J. II here with Musa Basal for the Double Coverage Podcast representing the Gin Sports Network. We'll see you guys next time.